The Quarry was released in 2022 by Supermassive Games, a developer known for interactive horror that usually feature multiple endings. You probably know them from the absolute hit game Until Dawn. Until Dawn was a huge hit and what I'd considered their first big game. Until Dawn came out in 2015 and was hugely popular. I personally loved it. It's since had a remake and even a movie based on it, even though the movie was trash. That's a whole different conversation. My point is, Until Dawn was a humongous hit and really put Supermassive Games on the map, but the horror genre in general on the map, I'd say. Until Dawn was based on slashers and horror films trying to recreate that terrifying feeling of 80s, 90s cliche horror tropes, and it did really well in this. While some of the characters were very cliche archetypes, you still loved them and you loved the concept, and it was a super fun game to play. I definitely was freaked out the entire game. The mystery of the Wendigos was a big hit, and the mystery of the entire game was honestly great. While it still had its flaws, I'm not denying that, it was overall a great experience. And so when the Quarry trailers came out, I, like many others, were very excited. I played the game with my friend when it came out, and I did really enjoy it, and so did she. We had a good experience playing it, and that was probably due to us sitting together and talking about it and playing it together. But just because I enjoyed it at a base level does not void its criticisms. The dialogue feels odd and unrealistic, and while every character just feels like a hollow cliche archetype. Now, Until Dawn was also like this. It's kind of the point to be cliche, marking an ode to horror. But Until Dawn made it fun, the characters very likable. Even the unlikable characters, it was fun to hate them or to kill them or to just play as them. I knew the moment Jacob purposely broke the car, I was gonna hate him, and not in a fun way. These characters felt a lack of chemistry and just completely awkward and were the opposite of likable, truly. The dialogue actually felt sometimes just too awkward to hear. It felt so stiff and it felt like they were kind of just not really enjoying the script, which is so fair. Some of the actors are absolutely great though, and absolutely excel in other pieces of media such as movies or shows. And the whole process to make these characters is so cool, and I won't knock that. Huge props to the VFX team for making this game look great. I love the use of mocap and how real these characters look, although sometimes with these kinds of games, the issues do come from the eyes. The eyes are the window to the soul, and it kind of feels like games that use mocap have never really cracked the eyes yet. In Until Dawn, it felt intense, nerve-wracking to keep your favorite character alive. But in The Quarry, I didn't care, and honestly, if I did care, it was easy to keep everyone alive anyways. The only thing that probably felt like truly frustrating was that damn puzzle where like Jacob's in the cage and you can like leave him in there or try and use the breaker, and if you get it wrong, the like monster, it's just a whole thing, and it's so annoying. It just felt really confusing, and like I didn't know what I was doing, which I guess is like, feels like you're in a horror game, but I don't know, it was just truly frustrating. A lot of the choices felt like they didn't even matter. No matter what you choose, it'll have the same outcome. Now, this is pretty common. Usually if you say have 100 choices in a game, but 7 endings, you obviously need those choices to funnel into those 7 endings. But you can do this in a way that doesn't make us as the player feel useless. You can maybe have a certain bar where it's like the amount of choices you have, and then those lead into other things. Or so for example, you can have like a moral bar in the game, or you can have, just make it, even if it's not necessarily gonna change the ending, make it change the scene. I feel like certain things, it's like if you don't do it, another player will be like, I'll just do it. And it's like I think there's one scene where Jacob doesn't want to break down the door or something, and Emma does it, and that might not be actually what happens, but I know there are a few scenes like this where your character doesn't do something and another character just does it, and it's just like, well, what's the point then? What's the point of allowing these choices if we don't do it? You're just going to get someone else to do it. It just doesn't, it makes it feel very inconsequential, which in a horror game is not good. You want to raise the stakes to make it more scary. I definitely did not feel scared at all this game. I really felt like it was not a scary horror movie at all, which is a real shame because obviously these games, like Supermassive Games with their horror games, really like to pay homage to old horror movies, specifically 80s, 90s slashers and classic films, which is obviously so great. I love a good callback to specific films, but the fact that none of this kind of felt like that was really sad. I mean, I didn't feel any stakes, I didn't feel intense. I think it was partly because I didn't like the characters nor their cliche kind of side, but I also just didn't feel like it was that intense, like, at all. A big problem with The Quarry is the ending. Now, there are multiple endings due to it, of course, being multiple choice, being able to kill characters and do specific things, But I find that kind of all the endings just feel flat and disappointing, and I'm not alone in this opinion. In my playthrough, I kept all the characters alive, and at the end I felt so dissatisfied. No reward for keeping them alive. I spent the entire game trying to save everyone and get the best possible ending, and it still didn't even feel like there was a slight reward for how much effort I had put in. Granted, I guess it wasn't that much effort because it was pretty easy to keep everyone alive. But still, I kept everyone alive, I got every single, like, little clue, and it still was nothing. Like, the fact, I understand, like, I do understand. But I still wasn't 100 about Until Dawn, but at least they wrapped it all up with the interviews at the end. I do understand it's hard to make all endings feel nice and complete when there are so many possibilities, but I just wish we had more. I wish, even if you said some of the middle ones weren't as great, at least have a great ending. Have the one where you keep them all alive have a specific ending, or where you kill them all have a specific ending. When all of the endings are the same with a slight different twist, what even makes you want to complete it? I felt like a lot of the game was just repeat. I feel like, okay, the issue with a lot of story games is people don't feel like it's replayable. With sandbox games like The Sims, City Skylines, Planet Zoo, for example, there is always replayability because you are always doing something different. But with story games like The Last of Us, for example, it is the same game every time, so the replayability comes within the gameplay. Whether it's you're trying grounded mode, or you're trying, like, I played The Last of Us but only like a pistol, you know, you do fun little different gameplay things, or maybe you love the story that much you repeat it, sure. But for the most part, a lot of replayability comes in the gameplay and the challenge aspect. These games, Until Dawn, The Quarry, all of these games, I would consider them like Detroit Becomes Human, interactive movies. There is so much cutscenes, there are so many cutscenes that it is more of an interactive movie with choices. So when you don't make those choices consequential, when you don't add to those endings, when you don't make it so that it's replayable, what is the point? I played it in a day and I haven't touched it since, which is fine. Not all games need to be replayable, but it is an interactive multiple choice movie, basically. Why would you not want everyone to want to play every single ending? But you don't want to play every single ending because, at least for the first half of the game, it is so repeatable, it is so the same. The replayability is just not there. It is just not there. But anyways, between lack of control, bad pacing, awkward dialogue, and weird cliche characters, I think Until Dawn is far superior, and I do think this sequel it's not even a sequel. I say in the title that it's a sequel. It is a totally different game. It is not a sequel, but it's a sequel in the sense of this was meant to be their next big game. Until Dawn was their first big game, and they've had a lot of, like, mini ones since then, shorter games, but this one was like their next big game, and it fell so far short from the mark. I felt like Supermassive Games had a huge downfall after The Quarry, and I hope they pick it back up because I would love to play another one of their big hit games in the future. But I just feel like The Quarry was just such a letdown when compared to Until Dawn. It is not a terrible game, it's not the worst game I've ever played, but when you compare it to Until Dawn, its predecessor, yeah, it falls pretty short. And I don't want to phrase that this game is all terrible, because I did enjoy it, but just like I said, compared to Until Dawn, it is a big letdown. The Quarry was based on classic slasher and monster films, but unfortunately these tropes they tried to pay homage to, it doesn't really show. It rather just seems like rushed and cheap. They're trying to do the classic tropes of these characters from horror movies. They do it in a way that doesn't feel like it's paying homage. It rather just feels like they used it as an excuse to not put any depth into their characters or writing. But that is all, guys. I just wanted to make a shorter video today talking about Until Dawn and The Quarry because I love Supermassive Games and I love The Quarry and I love Until Dawn, and I just feel like there is so much to want more of in The Quarry. But that is all, guys. Have you played The Quarry? Did you enjoy The Quarry? Do you like Until Dawn? What are your thoughts on it all? And I will see you all later. Don't forget to like and subscribe.